All right, here we are. We've successfully given it the first bit of CSS. There's two things I wanted to show you before we went any farther. We're going to go back to our HTML page, and I wanted to show you how to comment out a line. And what we mean by commenting out is I can take one line or a specific amount of code and give it some comment, and then the web browser won't go through and read that anymore. Alright, so I'll show you what that means. Let's go ahead and put in a start comment marker, I guess is what you call it. But it's a less than sign, a exclamation point, and then two dashes. So less than sign, exclamation point, and two dashes begins a comment, and you can see how it's going to comment everything after that comment mark all the way to the end of the page, unless I give it an end comment mark, which would be over here. It's two dashes and a greater than sign. So now you see that I've commented out this line of code right there. Where this is helpful, well, I'll show you what it does first. It's going to read this entire page, but it's not going to read this line. So therefore, it's not going to draw in my style sheet, and it's not going to give it any styles. So let's refresh this, and you see everything went back to the original, how it was before. Now if I go in here and I uncomment this, of course I had put a space in there, and now I refresh. Now it brought back in the style sheet, and it read the style sheet. Where this is nice is, say you wanted to, say you had a really long document, and you want to, when you come back in 2 years, you want to understand what you had done. So you can put a comment in here, and in the middle of the comment you say, this is the main style sheet. I mean, this is pretty much useless to us right now because it's such a short document and we understand what this is. But sometimes comments come in very handy. You can explain what you just did. And later on, when you come back in a couple years and you have to go through and parse your entire code, well, you can put comments in there, and it makes a whole lot of sense to you then. So that's how you comment out something in an HTML document. Every line, every code language has a different way of doing it. CSS is no different. Let's go here and start a comment line. And in CSS, it's a / and a asterisk. And that begins, you see how it all turned green, the comment line. And it will comment everything for the page after that, unless I put an asterisk, and a /. So / asterisk starts it, and then asterisk / ends it. Same idea. It won't run that line of code. Alright, and the other thing I wanted to show you is, I'm going to bring out this other browser that I have going. This is Firefox. And I have loaded in Firefox. I'm using this off screen, but this is the finished version of this website, from my other file, my other folder. Now, if I click anywhere on this page, right click, and go down to View Page Source, and you can do this for any website on the internet. Click View Page Source. It's going to bring up the HTML behind that page. Now, this is HTML that I've created, and it makes sense to me. It's very nicely laid out. Some of these websites you see out there that were built by, like Wix.com and all that, it's very jarbled and it's hard to understand. I think they do that on purpose, but here's mine. It's simple. And you can see here, it's exactly what we had typed before, but I have this line in here, link, with a relation of style sheet, and then I have a hyperlink reference to the main.css. Of course, it's in a different folder, so it's a little bit different than what we had typed. But you see how this is a hyperlink. When I click there, it's going to take me to all the CSS that I had typed for this page. We're going to be doing all of this. So far we've only done this clause right here. But you can see what's happening. The web browser is reading down through this HTML document line by line. It gets to this line, it says, here's a link. So it goes and it grabs all of this text and puts it and replaces this line with it. You know, it does it in the background. You don't see it happen, but it reads all of those lines of code before it goes on to the next line. And so that's why it's important to have our CSS before everything else. So it reads it first. It doesn't load it and then read the CSS. It won't know what to do with it. It always reads the CSS first, and then you go down through. Now with the script, it's opposite. We want that at the end. And what it's going to do, it's going to go in here to our jQuery.min, and consequently you don't want these switched. You don't want to read this one first and then read this one, because this one depends on this one. You'll see in a minute why in a later video. But see, it goes and it grabs all of this jQuery, and then it grabs all of the JavaScript that we had typed, and then it applies it back to our page. Now if you ran these two first, when you got here, it'd be looking for, you know, a nav menu, and it would say, well, there's no nav menu yet. Now what are you going to do? And so that's why we put the script at the bottom and the CSS on top. So I wanted to show you so you kind of understand what's going on behind the scenes. Get that back off. Showing the secrets of my trade here. That's not cool. All right, main.css. The next little bit we're going to do is the logo. All right, the logo is right here. Let me grab this in. This is probably all we'll get done with this video because I've been jabbering too much. But here's the logo. Now, if you go back to our HTML, we have the body starting, we have the screen, we have a banner, we have a title, and inside of the title we have a logo. So this is what we're going to style right now, the logo. And inside the logo we have an image. And that image is, it doesn't have any title or anything, it's just inside the logo. So we're going to go back here, we're going to say, no, I forgot to mention, this is an ID of logo. So the way we talk to an ID from CSS, remember up here we just named an element, but down here we need to put a pound sign and then the ID name. When the pound sign there signifies to CSS that we're talking about an ID, so it's going to look for an ID of logo, not an element of logo. All right, the padding is going to be 20%. Now, the difference between a padding and a margin, I'll show you this in just a second. This is paint.net. You know how to use that. I'm going to draw a simple box. Here's my box. Then I'm going to enter in some text. Make it bigger so we can see it. All right, so padding versus margin. Margin, let's pretend that this box is our div, all right? And then inside the div we have a paragraph or a text. Margin is from the outside of the div to anything outside of it. This space out here. All around. Here's the left margin, the top margin, right and bottom margin. Padding is from the edge of the div to whatever's inside of it. This is padding. So left padding, top padding, right padding, and lower padding. That's the difference between margin and padding. Margin's on the outside of the div, and padding's on the inside of the div. Anything can have padding, anything can have margins. So that's good to keep in your knowledge. So we're going to give this logo, remember the logo is the div. Right now the div has a margin of 0. We're not changing the margin or anything. We're just changing the padding, the inside, from the inside of the div to the outside of the image is going to have a padding of 20 pixels. And then I'm going to go back into the ID of div, and then look inside that to see if there's any images, which there is. In other words, this is an ID signification. This is a element signification. And I'm going to give the element image inside of the div that has the ID logo a width of 300 pixels. Now when I save that and refresh, you can see that I have a padding. The div is all the way up to the top and all the way up to the side. The padding is between the inside of the div and the image itself on both sides. And over here, but doesn't really matter. So there you have it. And then we took the image and we made it only 300 pixels. All right. Thank you.